Hey dudes, and welcome back to the freaking channel. Today we're going straight to voiceover for this intro. I know, you guys are missing out on my beautiful face, but so that you don't miss me too much, I'll throw up a little picture on the screen. Last week I had a little shop update, so in this video I am packing up all the orders from that update, and I just thought that it'd be fun to do a little ASMR, a little music, and definitely a little Q&A so that we stay productive. And specifically, we're going to be doing a small art business Q&A. So I went to Instagram and I asked you guys for your Q's about small business, and here are my A's. And I just want to do a really quick disclaimer that these answers are strictly based off of my own experience. I am certainly not an expert. This is really just based off things that I've collected over the years from my own experience or from my peers. And I just think it could be valuable to hear someone else's experience and not take everything I say word for word. So now that we've said that, I'd also like to quickly apologize for my mic quality. I'm currently in a hotel room in Kansas City at a con, and I don't have my microphone set up with me, so it's gonna be a little bit janky. We're gonna deal with it. We're gonna be fine. So I've already went ahead and I organized all the questions into categories, and they're super rough categories, but we're gonna start off with starting and managing a business. Then we're gonna move on to marketing and sales, and finally at the end, what I do for legal and financial. That's not advice, okay? None of that's advice, it's just things that I have done. And of course, all of the questions will be in its own little chapter down below. So if you want to skip around according to like what you want to listen to, it'll all be down there in the description box below. So for our first question, we're gonna get started with a nice and easy one with, was it hard in the beginning? I'm starting to feel like I'm over my head. Girl, yes indeed. It was very hard, and till this day, it still is hard. I would say that if you don't have like a lot of resolve, or you're not a very resilient person, which is okay, you know, but if you can't like immediately bounce back from a cry sesh, I would say that business probably isn't for you, because there is a lot of up and down in business. Bad things will happen and they will make you really sad and frustrated, but you have to keep going, because if you don't keep going, the whole business falls apart, especially at a small business. And I'm not trying to like scare you guys. I know that sounded, I don't know, did I come off intense? But all I'm trying to say is that you have to talk to yourself first. You have to think about what it is that you want, what you can handle, and if you're okay with up and down all the time and lack of stability. So yeah, it is completely normal to feel in over your head. Like, I feel in over my head all the freaking time. And of course, that feeling has definitely diminished as time has gone on, as I've gained more experience, because now I have systems where I can kind of figure things out, and I know that I am capable of figuring things out because I know my stress tolerance is. So figure out your stress tolerance, figure out if this is for you or if you can deal with this. And if you can't, there's no problem in that. You know, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to have a small business because it is just too much. But if you're for it, yes, it's hard. Yes, you'll feel in over your head, but it's nothing that you can't handle, you know? And it's very rewarding at the same time. And hopefully as we move through this video that we'll be answering questions that will hopefully like alleviate some of that stress, kind of let go of some of that fear of the unknown. I can only hope though. I don't know if I'm actually going to be helpful, but we'll try. So let's move on to the next question. Terribly confused with where to start. Also, can't particularly find out the market for my work. And I think this is a great question because it can be answered in two different ways. In my opinion, there are two different mindsets you can have when going into a small art business. Either you are creative first or you are business first. People who are of the business first mindset are those who are looking into just getting into business. You're just interested in the world of small business and you see that the art market is pretty decent. I actually know quite a few people like this because they just like the art market and they're actually very good at business and are very business minded. And their strategies are vastly different from mine, especially getting started. As you go on, as your business grows a little bit, they do kind of merge and become kind of the same. But in the beginning, it looks completely different. So when you're starting as a business first mindset, you'll probably look into like markets and niches that have a lot of financial potential. and then figure out how to make art geared towards that market. But when you're a creative first mindset like me, our path tends to be a little bit slower right off the bat. But don't worry, we eventually get to the point where you are financially competitive with the business first people. If you're creative first, then you are trying to make money out of doing something you love, which means that you have to kind of protect that creativity. So it's super important that you figure out what you like to do and what you can do long term. And because we have to kind of stay committed to a certain kind of idea or style or type of brand that we're going to have, then it's really important at the beginning to try as many things as possible and pivot intentionally until you find something that you think that you'll really like for a while and you can grow with. Once you already know what your art style and your voice is, then I recommend following people and businesses who have a similar style and see what kind of markets that they're working in and what works for them. And I'm not saying completely copy their exact business model, but it is standard practice to do a little bit of analysis with your competition and see what works for them and what doesn't. Then that's when you experiment a little bit with different kinds of markets and see what works for you. Don't reinvent the wheel, but just remember that the best businesses are those that can learn and adapt. Moving on to the next question, we have what amount of money should I start with for this kind of small business? And not to be really annoying, but it really depends on your situation. Like, if you're living at home, then you don't have a ton of overhead and you don't need that much initial capital to get started. But if you have a lot of expenses like student loans, rent, insurance, and all that jazz, then you're going to need a lot more extra capital in the beginning because you need the cushion, because if you lose your money, then you're on the street, bro. You're going to have to fend for yourself. It also depends on how you want to do your business. Are you going to use manufacturers or are you going to make everything from home? If you're going to make everything from home, assuming that you already have a laptop or computer of some sort, cutting machines and printers usually run for a couple $100s each. My printer is $400. My Cricut and or Silhouette is $200, usually around that price. They do go up and down. Like if you get the nicer Cricut, the Cricut Maker, it's like $300, but I use the Explorer personally. And Silhouettes are even cheaper. Then there's the cost of materials like packaging or just like the paper that you're going to print on. And then you have to decide where you want to sell your product. Are you going to sell on your own website with your own domain, to which you're going to have to pay every single month or like a 2-year down payment for your domain and then pay a monthly fee for the website? Or are you going to sell on Etsy, where it's zero initial cost, but they take a huge chunk from you for every sale? And at the cheapest, then you can probably do like Imprint or Redbubble, where you basically don't do anything. You don't need a manufacturer, you don't need your own printer or cutter. They do it all for you and they ship it out for you too, but they do take a pretty decent chunk out of your profits. So as you can see, you can pretty much bootstrap it for however much you want. You can pay $0 and just do Imprint or Redbubble, or you can do something in between. For me personally, when I got started, I was on Etsy. I print and cut from home, and I started with a $2,000 little chunk of cash to gamble with. And you might be thinking that's like way too much, and people have definitely started with less, but I wanted to give myself enough money so that if I were to really go full force at this and I gave it my absolute all and it still failed, that I would have a little bit of chunk of cash left and it wouldn't dip into my savings where I couldn't support myself anymore, because I was in that kind of financial situation where I needed cash. I couldn't just like rely on someone else to support me. So in summary, it can cost however much you want it to cost. But at the end of the day, do not quit your day job to do this. Keep your day job as long as you can, because that is the smartest thing to do financially. When I got started, I had 2 jobs. I had one full-time, one part-time at a restaurant, and I was doing this on top of it. So you definitely have the time and ability to work a full-time job and do this on the side, because I really don't want to hear any more stories about people quitting their full-time job, chasing this dream with no backup, and then it flopping and then them being in trouble. And trust me, I've heard that story quite a bit now, especially in the whole artist alley scene. So please, please, please be smart with your money. Moving on to the next question. What would you recommend to someone who wants to sell art but doesn't have any followers? And I love this question because I feel like nowadays everyone thinks that you have to have followers in order to be able to be an artist. Of course, it's a great and viable way to make money, but it's definitely not necessary. You can always start by utilizing online market spaces like Etsy or Redbubble, where you can learn the SEO to get your products seen. I've started on Etsy and I eventually grew a following from it to be able to shift over to my own website. And the way I actually did this, where I was able to grow a social media following from my Etsy, was that I would offer people 15% off their next order if they followed me and shared their order on social media and tagged me. And hey, people love a good discount, and posting to your stories is like nothing. So it was a very low friction and essentially free way for me to get my name out there to people who would probably be in my market anyway, because they're following that person that already bought from me. So not only was it like kind of free marketing, but it was also like targeted marketing, which is fantastic. Another way to make money without a large social media following is to participate in local fairs, markets, or exhibitions to showcase your work and network to potential buyers and other artists. You basically need like no social media following in order to apply to these things, so I would definitely recommend researching local markets first, trying those out, and then you can also grow a following from that too by giving out business cards and, again, networking with people there. And I actually know like quite a few people personally with absolutely no social media presence. Some of them don't even have online websites, and they are making a great living off of just doing local events. All right, and moving on to the next question. What percentage of business is planned out and what percentage is winging it? And I feel like, honestly, I want to say all of it is winging it, but in truth, if I'm like really being, I don't know, if I'm really being analytic about it and really thinking about it, I do kind of know on average how much things make. And oh my God, that sounds so vague. Let me clean up this answer. Like, for example, I can kind of estimate how much I'm going to make on the first day of a shop drop. So I can control how many shop drops I have in a year, and I know how much those usually make, and I know how much sales usually make, so I can control how many sales I have in a year. But of course, those aren't really reliable, right? The more volume I do, like if I have a sale every other week, obviously I'm not going to be having the same kind of results all the time. So timing is really important. But generally, with my current schedule, I can kind of predict how much I'm going to make based on a sale or a shop drop. And I'm only recently kind of figuring out how much certain posts will make. So I know that if I post a certain kind of reel, it will result in a certain amount of sales. It's not usually that one-to-one, but recently I've been seeing a little bit of a pattern, so I have to do a little bit of analysis on that, and I'll get back to you guys on that. But for now, I do feel like I kind of have a pulse on it. And since I've been doing markets and cons and shows for a little bit now, I kind of know what I make on average. Of course, I can't control how good a show is, but I know what my average is. I know how many shows I'll do in a year, so I can kind of plan it out. But of course, I can't control how many shows I get into, so that's like another thing to consider as well. I said I would clean it up, but really I was just thinking out my answer. But I would say like 65 to 70% is planned out, I guess, because I plan out my shop drops and I apply to a lot of different kinds of shows. I don't get into all of them, but I kind of make sure I have a certain amount of shows per year. I can use my average and figure out how much I'll make on that. So yeah, I would say 65 to 70% of it, but it really feels like I'm winging all of it. It really is kind of just like an educated guess with strong winging energy, I suppose. Oh, also, this has nothing to do with my like art shop, but it's part of my overall business, like social media. Only recently started making real money for me. So I am not really familiar with that either. That's also very unpredictable as I can't control how many sponsorships I get. Also, I don't want to like take all of them either. I only take the ones where I believe in the product. And also like there was a point like maybe last month, where I had like 2 or 3 sponsorships in a row, and I felt really, really bad for like making you guys listen to 3 sponsorships in a row. I mean, it wasn't all in the same day. It was like every week there was one sponsorship for 3 weeks in a row. But even then, that felt like, I don't know, that you guys would get mad at me. So I don't really know how I feel about that at the moment, but it is income at the moment. And it's new to me, and I can predict basically 0 of that. So that part really is winging it. Moving on to the next question. God, I swear to God, I am gonna figure out a different way to like transition to the next question. But how long did it take you to make this your full-time gig? And I'm gonna answer this in a way where it's full-time and I have nothing else. So it's my sole source of income, and that took me 3 years to do. Up until fairly recently, I worked as a medical illustrator, waitress, creative producer, and during that time, I was basically putting full-time effort into building Peppercut. So for 3 years, I was working full-time in Peppercut, but with a bunch of other jobs that actually supported me financially up until I felt comfortable letting them all go. So I actually made pretty decent money after the first year. I would say that it was technically livable, but it wouldn't be a very comfortable living, and it was super risky, and I would have been crying every single day out of just being stressed out. So I was not comfortable with that up until very, very recently. So in full, it took me 3 years to let go of everything and let Peppercut be my full-time income. And low-key, this next question kind of piggybacks off of this, but it says, how long did it take you to feel like your online shop was successful? So honestly, not until last year did I start kind of feeling like, oh, I really did something here. And of course, this answer is also always changing. Like some days I feel really, really proud, and other days I just feel like, my God, I'm a huge failure. This is all a mistake. I wish business was doing better. I could be better. Like, why do I suck? But at the end of the day, it's all about practicing gratitude. As much as a negative Nelly that I am, practicing gratitude is just so important in business because you have to keep up like the delusion that you're able to do this. And I know it just sounds so woo-woo, you know, it just sounds so out there. But if you have a small business, if you're on social media, you're already like woo-woo, you're already delusional. And that's not a negative thing. I believe that you have to have that in order to take the kinds of leaps that you do in small business or on social media. But you're already in it, you know, so it doesn't hurt to practice a little bit of gratitude to make yourself feel better. For our next question, we have, would you ever consider mentoring a noob illustrator or aspiring small business owner? And my God, I have not seen the word noob since 2009. But to answer this question, I actually love the idea of this. I think about it all the freaking time, not because I think of myself as some sort of expert, but I know how much I struggled. I know how much I currently struggle. And I hate to see or think that anyone else is struggling as much as I did, because I remember feeling like shit. I remember feeling lost, like I don't know how to do anything. And guess what? Starting a small business is all kind of the same. So when you're doing it and you're trying out all these things and they're failing, you're kind of just like reinventing the wheel. There is someone out there with all the knowledge and they can give it to you. And I want to be that person for the very basic things that I did at the beginning. But at the same time, I just feel like I'm also not very good at things and that I'm not an expert. So instead of mentoring, I do this where I just share my experiences so you guys can see it live and in person and follow the journey. But in the future, hopefully when I'm a little bit more confident in what I'm doing, or I feel like I actually know concrete things, I would love to mentor. And I would love to do it like absolutely free. Like I see a lot of people, especially artists, they'll do like Patreons where you like sign up for however much a month and they'll pick up like a little cohort of 2 or 3 or 5, or I saw one for 15. And this is no hate, but I don't believe in paying for education or like mentorship. I believe that all education should be free. And so I would want to do it for free, and I would like to do it in like little cohorts as well. But at the time being, I don't know anything. So I'm always happy answering questions here about my own experience. But in terms of like, here's concrete information and knowledge, I cannot do that at the moment. I just simply do not know. Moving on to the marketing and sales portion, this is going to be a very wide umbrella, so I'm trying my best to categorize them. That being said, the question is, what social media platform or type of content has been the best that brings traffic and sales to your site? And I think this is a very interesting question because I think it's kind of counter to what a lot of people are saying at the moment. Personally, for me, Instagram is by far the best. It converts the most amount of sales, and also as an artist, I like posting pictures of my art. I just feel like that's the best way to see someone's art. And I know a lot of people and Instagram is constantly saying just put out reels. That's the only thing that'll work. But personally, for me, a lot of my pictures are still doing fine and they convert in a lot of sales as well. But of course, reels also do a great job of garnering attention from people that don't follow me. Also, personally, I don't really use TikTok because I don't love TikTok Shop. I know a lot of people are doing incredibly well on TikTok. This is definitely not to bash TikTok Shop at all. There are people making hundreds of thousands of dollars, even in the millions on TikTok Shop because it's just so good at garnering a ton of attention, and just like the portal I wish you use to buy directly off of TikTok is great. But personally, for me, anytime I see like the little tag that says shop or like a product is added to the post, I immediately scroll because they are almost overly advertising on TikTok for TikTok Shop at the moment. And I'm feeling like a wave of fatigue. Like, honestly, people are still making a ton of money, and I think they will for a while, but I personally don't love using TikTok Shop because of that. I really do just like scroll so fast anytime I see a product linked because I just simply don't believe that these people are telling me the truth. People are just making so much in commission and also making so much off of TikTok Shop that I don't know. I'm not saying they're lying, but I just hate it, so I don't use it, and I don't want to push my product on there because it feels inauthentic. But if you want to use TikTok Shop, I'm not saying you're inauthentic. I'm just saying that at the moment, the way that TikTok is formatting everything and pushing everything, that's what it feels like to me. And the last part of this answer of this question ties into the next question, which is, does YouTube play a big role in getting sales? And for me, personally, it's yes and no. I know that's annoying, but let me explain. In terms of transactions through social media, like people who click on the link through the platform, on my Shopify, it shows that Instagram makes up 75% while YouTube makes 25%. And obviously, 25% is still a huge chunk of my business. Well, it's not 25% of my business, but it's 25% of my business through social media sales. So it's definitely not the majority, but it is a significant chunk that I would miss and I do need for my business. So there are some videos that do directly result in sales for me, like my journaling videos where I am showing the products that I'm using for my bullet journal for the next 3 months. And those are products that people can buy and use in their own journals. So that's kind of like direct advertisement. And those guys do result in a decent amount of sales. But regular vlogs and stuff don't really do anything in terms of sales. It's really just more so for community building and to document my journey. But also, I just feel like the most genuine community for me is on YouTube. I really just feel like they're there for me. And I feel like that on Instagram as well, but it's a little bit more fleeting on there. I also feel like there is something to be said about building a brand on YouTube. I don't want my business to be attached to who I am forever. I want Peppercut to stand on its own eventually, but if you have an art business that is named after you and is kind of about you, then yeah, having a YouTube channel is great for branding. And not only that, it's usually good for sales. Like there are a lot of artists on here who their art is like very tied to who they are and they get a lot of sales through YouTube. So you kind of just have to think about like what path you want to take and whether or not you want your art business to be necessarily connected to who you are forever. Our next question is, what is a good way to increase sales at an event or a convention? And this is very interesting because a lot of people have different strategies, but here are the ones that I use. One, obviously, have great deals. Pushing volume is great because at the end of the day, even though each item is cheaper, let's say you sell stickers for $4 and then you sell them in a bulk for $5 or $15, yeah, each sticker is making $1 less than if you're selling them individually. But at the end of the day, you have to push less transactions to get to, let's say, $5,000 than if you were pushing a deal that's 5 for 15. Instead of just doing $4, $4, now you're pushing $15 at a time and you'll be making more money in the long run. Next up is obviously to have a nice display. People love feasting with their eyes, so if you have a nice big display, it doesn't have to be huge, just it has to be thoughtful. And you have to remember that your display has to make sense for your products. It has to showcase your products in a way that will push sales. So if you have a lot of big products, then you need a lot of spacing in order for each product to kind of stand on its own. But if you have a lot of tiny products, then you need a way to have them all be able to stand out even though they're small. So you have to figure out a way to draw attention to them by really nice signs or having sample strips, let's say of washi tape. Washi tape is so small, so maybe take out some of the strips, display them on a little sign so people can see them, and then they'll buy the actual tape that is placed underneath it. Also, it's great to be conversational. Stand up. You don't have to stand the entire time. I used to think I had to stand the entire time, but that's so bad for my knees. You can sit down every once in a while, but standing up and being conversational really goes a long way. And that is so different from being obnoxious and pushing a sale. Just be pleasant at an event. You're there not just to make sales. You're there to have fun. You're there to connect with people. Be genuine and don't expect a sale from every conversation. I feel like buyers nowadays are very wary of that. And you know what? Even if you don't make a sale from a conversation, which is totally fine and not what you should be expecting, having people at your booth that are hanging out really draws attention to people who might buy from you. So it's just good to just hang out, have fun, talk to people, be nice. And lastly, do fun promotions on your social media. Don't just do hey, I'm at this table, come by if you're around. Do something like the first 100 sales gets an extra free thing. Print out a tiny little sticker or something. People love an extra tiny free thing. Or do a fun raffle that you can promote. Or actually, I'm at NakaCon right now and the guy across from me has a little I think Super Smash tournament going on. If you can beat a certain boss, he gives you something for free. And that's really fun because you get people who come to your table, they'll watch the other person play games, but now they're at your table so they can take a look at your art a little bit more. And that is actually truly the key to getting more sales. It's just getting people to stop and look at your art. Just take a look at it, because usually in cons they're really speeding by, they're not really looking. So just try to garner a little bit of attention just so that people are looking a little longer. It doesn't mean that they owe you anything, but just the chances that they might buy something is higher because now they actually know what you have. And for our next question, we have, when you initially started, how many products did you have for sale? My very first time selling something for art, I only had one product. Never underestimate the power of one really, really good product. And it was just a sticker. It was just a cute sticker that people liked, and I just sold hundreds of this one sticker. But for my first ever shop update, I think I had 7 products drop, and it was enough to make decent sales. And sorry to say again, but there is no magic number. It really is just up to you and what you're selling. If you're doing a clothing brand, then having just a few key items drop in one drop is probably really smart. Or maybe you have one really, really cool shirt or one really innovative necklace, then you only need to sell that one. But if you're dropping a collection, I would say 5 to 7 products is probably okay for the most part. Also, it kind of depends on if you're doing a drop once sold out and it's gone for good, or you're doing an evergreen product, It all depends. You have to really think about it, but those were my numbers. And that was actually our last question in terms of marketing and sales. So we're moving on to legal and financial matters. And I know this doesn't really need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyways. This is by no means legal or financial advice, okay? I'm not a legal or financial advisor. I'm just a gal on the internet, and this is how I did things. So don't follow my advice, or I don't know. This is not advice. This is just what I did, all right? Is that clear between the two of us? Anyway, let's just answer the first question. And that is for stationary biz like yours, how do you do your taxes? S Corp, LLC, or sole proprietor? And for me, Peppercut Studios is an LLC, but I file as an S Corp. Basically, the sooner you cannot be a sole proprietor, the better, because sole proprietors have the most amount of liability and they have a lot less like tax exemptions or ways to get around taxes, so you end up paying a lot more. And filing for an LLC is so easy. You just Google it. Basically, you just go onto your government website, you go onto your state website, and there's usually instructions right there for you. And don't fall for those like traps like LegalZoom, or I don't remember the other one, but filing for an LLC does not require help. You do not need to pay for anything. You do not have to pay anyone to do anything. You can definitely do it on your own, and it's super duper easy. For our next question, we have, how does your small business make money? Do you diversify? Does YouTube pay anything? So I am kind of diversified. So most of my money comes from my online shop, and I also have events and markets, and I have social media. So I feel like a lot of people think that most of my money comes from markets and fairs, but I'm actually really, really glad it mostly comes from online, because doing markets and fairs is like very unreliable because you don't always know if you're going to get in, especially if it's a convention. Usually local markets, those are easy to get into. It's pretty much just pay for the table and you're in. But when it comes to cons, it's so hit or miss if you're gonna get into something. So I really just like having the reliability of my online shop just chugging away, and then I can do in-person events whenever I want to have some more cash, or just whenever I feel like it, so that I don't rely on something that's so energy intensive and also takes up a lot of money to get into as well. So yeah, online makes most of it, then comes fairs and events, and social media makes like 5% of it. So like AdSense and brand deals, I cannot rely on brand deals. I've had like 4 in my life, and they're great, but I don't know when another one's coming. I don't think I have another one coming up, which is fine because it makes so little of my income. And YouTube AdSense usually makes like, I don't know, it also goes up and down, but it's like $600 to $1,000 a month. And that's only been the past like 6 or 7 months that I kind of jumped back into YouTube. I want to keep diversifying my money though. I mean, the money that is like mine is quite diversified. I have it in a bunch of different things. So if you guys ever want like, how do I organize my personal finance video, I'm also happy to do that, because I was very lost at the beginning too, but I really like the system I have right now. Again, not financial advice, just like, here's a way that I do it, and then you can figure out how you want to do it. But other ways I want to start diversifying, that's not a real word, diversifying my online market, which is going back into Etsy and then also maybe TikTok Shop, even though I talked a lot of shit about TikTok Shop earlier. But if I can get someone to manage that for me, and I don't know, there's like so much money potential there. So if I can get someone to manage it for me and I don't have to really look at it, that would be fantastic. And that would really grow my income quite a bit online, I think. I'm guessing, but it's an educated guess. And I have also thought about getting into wholesale, which a lot of artists do. It's a great way to like make a little chunk of cash every month, but I don't know. This is something I want to do once my characters and brand gets a little bit more established. I think that would be really cute to do. Another way that artists make money is to do commissions, but personally, I don't like doing commissions, and I don't know, I'm lucky enough where I don't have to rely on doing those. But if you're an artist getting started, that's a great way to just like make some cash here and there. Actually, not even just here and there. You can really niche down into commissions too. Like some people do really specific couple portraitures, or they do pet stuff, or I don't know. There's like really specific things you can get into if you want to niche down into commissions. It's just not really my thing, so I don't do it. And that's pretty much it for the financial and legal stuff, I assume. Really just the LLC question was legal. Everything else was financial. And even the LLC thing was also financial. But anywho, we're going to move on to kind of like miscellaneous. So there's a lot of product development questions and some like little personal ones. So I'm going to finish up with that. Thanks so much if you already made it to this part. I know this is probably going to be a long video. So if you need to take a break, go get yourself another drink, another snack. So sorry it's been so long, but I'm going to get started with the next question right now. So did you pause? Did you unpause? Are you fed? Do you have a snack, a beverage? All right, let's go. What's the best but least time consuming way to personalize my packaging in fun ways? And guys, I feel like it's very obvious that I love customizing my packaging. I think it's the best part to owning a small business is that you can make everything as cute as you want. But at the same time, I'm also very impatient and I don't like things to consume a lot of my time. So the least time consuming way that I customize my packaging without a manufacturer, because that's kind of what I do nowadays. I just buy everything in like super bulk in like the thousands. If you don't want to just go straight to a manufacturer, you don't want to buy in bulk, then the best way to customize your packaging is just to directly print onto the envelope or even like the tissue paper you're using. Not a lot of printers can do the tissue paper, but they can do the waxy paper. You know what I mean? Like the food safe wax paper. So if you have a printer, you can just like go onto Illustrator, have a cute little design on there, and you can just print them directly onto your envelope. And even though I'm like mostly manufacturing my packaging nowadays, I still do the printing on my envelopes thing for international orders. So about once a month, I prep all of my envelopes with specific designs that I have saved on Illustrator, and I just directly print onto there. And it's super fast, but the packaging is still super cute and very personalized. And this is more of a time-consuming thing, but I love just adding a little bit of stickers and washi tape onto the outside of packages. Once your orders start getting into like the hundreds, like that is very, very time-consuming. But personally, I still think it's kind of worth it because I just love decorating. So it's kind of up to you, but the printing directly onto the packaging thing is the least time-consuming way to customize anything. For our next question, we have, how do you get your shipping labels before printing them? I'm actually like a bit confused by this question. Like, do you mean like where do I buy the actual thermal label or where do I purchase the shipping information, like the shipping label? Either way, I'll just answer both. Easy peasy. The actual thermal labels you can get anywhere online. You can Google it. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on online labels. You can get like actually thousands of them for free if you go through like UPS or something like that. I think you just go online, sign up for the free membership, and then you can order like a bunch of free labels. I don't know if they're still doing that, but there's a ton of videos about that online. So use your brain, just go online, look it up yourself, be resourceful. For the actual shipping labels that are able to send the package to the recipient, I just generate them through Shopify. So if you have like any kind of like e-commerce website that you're working through, like if you're working through Etsy or you're working through Shopify or Squarespace, those guys usually have some sort of deal worked out with shippers like FedEx or UPS or USPS, and they usually give you like a little bit of a discount. It's not really significant, but it does save you money over time, and you just buy directly through them. Or you can go through like a third party like ShipStation, or I don't know other ones. I only know ShipStation. I used to use them quite a bit, especially if you get sales through PayPal. But yeah, I just buy them through my e-commerce host. Next up, we have, will you make sun catcher stickers or a coloring book? And yes, I am so freaking interested in a coloring book. I really don't know what I want the theme to be yet. I was thinking maybe food, maybe flowers, maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't really landed on anything yet. So if you have an idea, let me know in the comments below because I would love to make a coloring book. And as for sun catchers, I really don't know the manufacturing process behind that, but I'll definitely look into it if enough people express interest. And for the next question, I told you guys that this is going to be like a mishmash kind of portion, but will you attend any German events this year? Sadly, I won't. I did get into Dacomi, but I got into like the vendor section, not the artist alley. So next year, I'm going to go to the artist alley. I am determined to. I know you have to apply, but I'm going to do everything it takes to get into Dacomi. I want to go to Dusseldorf. And also, I've decided that next year is going to be the year of international for me. So I want to do another one in London. I want to do one in Paris, and I want to do one in Singapore. So look out, world. I am coming out to you guys. I mean, I'm not coming out to you guys, but I'm coming over to you guys. I'm gonna come visit and see your lovely country and hopefully sell you guys some things. Anyway, yeah, that is the answer. And lastly, I'm gonna round out this entire Q&A with this last question, which just seems like really cute and nice and kind of reflective. And it's, when reflecting back on your entire journey, what do you absolutely love the most? And I love that I tried so many different things. So if you started with me from the very beginning, I sold that one random sticker on Facebook Marketplace back in my college Facebook Marketplace. It was literally a free and for sale, and I threw a sticker up on there. Then I went into medical illustrating because I had a degree in physiology and I loved art. Even though I couldn't draw to save my life, I literally scammed so many people. It shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. I ended up getting published in a bunch of journals too. So it was just, yeah, there are some interesting drawings out there in very, very notable journals. I even got into production. Then I don't know, I was bullet journaling for a while and I just didn't want to get pigeonholed in bullet journaling anymore. And I just kept pivoting, and sometimes it feels like I wasted a bunch of time just like getting to here, just drawing whatever I want, having my little characters and making a business out of that. I don't know. In reality, I really do truly feel like I needed all that experience to get to where I am, and I learned so much along the way. So I'm really proud of that work, and I'm really, really proud of the journey of how I got here, even though it was like really twisty and windy. I don't know. It was good. I'm okay with where I'm at, and it's okay that it took me this long to get here. In reality, it's not that long, but when you're comparing to other people, that's like the problem, right? You should never compare to other people. It feels like I took a lot longer. Anyway, that was a lot of talking, and that was a lot of listening. If you got to this point, thank you so fucking much. Like, that is really insane if you got to this point, because I talked so much nonsense. So we're just gonna end the video here. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see anything else from me, check out the description box below, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.